So welcome everyone to our conversation today with Victoria Sykes. My name is Sarah Bronstein and I am the Assistant Director of Career Advising. I am beyond thrilled to have my former student, fellow Grace Hopper attendee, and friend Victoria Sykes on the call today. My colleagues Jody, Ashlyn, and Peter are also here, so we're super excited to have them. But again, first off, I would like to introduce Ashton Zimmerman, Director of Annual Giving for the Luddy School, who is going to tell us a bit about how to engage with Luddy after graduation.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and a huge thank you again, Tori, for your time here today. I just wanted to say thank you again on behalf of the Office of Alumni Development and Relations. For all the students on the call, when you graduate, it means so much to our current students when you give your time back and time, talent, treasure, being able to come back and share your experiences, share the resume process, share the employment process. It was invaluable for our students to hear this experience. So, Tori, again, thank you so much for giving us your time today. For students, if you would like to remain in contact with us after you graduate, I'll be happy to drop a link in the chat here for our alumni ways to stay engaged page, as well as our email for the office. If you've ever got an opportunity to come back in the future, always feel free to reach out to myself or Peter or Bree Palmer Easton's in our office as well. We are always happy to stay engaged with you as both students and as alumni. So Tori, thank you so much again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And with that, I'll pass it back off to you, Sarah, so we can maybe kick things off.
Well, thank you again, Ashlyn. I am very excited to once again introduce Victoria Sykes, a 2023 graduate of Luddy's Informatics program. She is currently a product marketing manager at Microsoft, focusing on the Azure AI team. During her time at IU, Victoria was the president of Women in Computing, an Adobe ambassador, and a Grace Hopper attendee. We are so lucky and happy to have her here today. So let's start off with some basic introductory questions, and then we'll dive into the Q&A that we've already started off. Tori, if you can go ahead and get started with just introducing yourself and telling us a bit about your background and how you got to your current role at Microsoft.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Victoria Sykes, also go by Tori, so feel free to call me either. I did recently graduate from IU in May of 2023. I had a degree in informatics with minors in creative advertising and human-centered computing. And as Sarah mentioned, on campus, I was really involved with Women in Computing. I was lucky enough to be their president for 2 years. I was also an Adobe student ambassador for 3 years. I was a part of Grace Hopper my senior year. I got to work with pace setters for a little bit over a year. So I was really involved on campus, and that truly kind of made my experience so great and was what gave me the opportunity to be where I am at now. And I am a full-time employee at Microsoft as a product marketing manager working on Azure AI. I lead all of the customer evidence and demos for Azure AI, specifically Azure OpenAI Service, or what most people more commonly know as is Enterprise ChatGPT. So very exciting work and very fast paced, but I am so thankful and I really love it. And so much of that is how I got there is through my experience at IU and being able to really take what I had learned and the experiences that I got on campus to translate it into real life and showcase that work on LinkedIn and in meetings, other people with networking, with resume building, and all of that. And that's how I kind of landed here. So it's really exciting.
So, well, thank you so much for that awesome background. So from my understanding, like you said, you started with a internship at Microsoft. Can you tell me a little bit more about those activities, classes, or projects that helped you to stand out in that internship interview process?
Yeah, absolutely. So my interview process, it was a little unique because I was not even thinking about marketing for big tech. I didn't really know what marketing in big tech looked like and kind of assumed marketing is marketing and it doesn't have anything to do with technology, but that's not the case. So someone reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, I see the work that you're doing with IU and with Women in Computing and with Adobe. and I think you would be a really great fit for this internship. So here's the link if you're interested in applying. And I'm not kidding. I saw that and I actually thought I was being phished. So it took me a second before I actually clicked on the link. But once I did, I was like, I have nothing to lose. I'm gonna apply for it. And then that process was 2 rounds of interviews. The first one was a very normal standard interview, just getting to know you, your passions, the work that you've done to see if you're really a good fit for the program. And then the second round was a little bit more rigorous. It was like about 4 to 5 hours long, one-on-one interviews, each interview an hour long, and you would just go back to back with different product marketing managers at Microsoft in different specializations. So we had Xbox, we had Azure, we had Surface, we had all of the great stuff to really get a little bit more of our background and understanding and see how we would apply our skills to marketing and what that looks like at Microsoft. So a couple things that really helped me stand out was being able to comfortably talk to my experiences. I was lucky enough to be able to talk about the things that women in computing did, and it was so impactful to me, and I was really passionate about the project that passion really shone through in my interviews, and I think that helped a lot. But being able to showcase that teamwork ability, the dynamic of collaboration and communication with others is something that no matter what role you're looking for is so important. As much as you want to believe, whether you're going to be a software engineer, you're going to be a marketer, or anything else, that you're going to be doing it alone, that's just not the case. You're always going to fall on a team and always going to have to work with others, even if you are doing a lot of your own skills. So being able to showcase that and have experiences that I can directly talk to was really important. And then additionally, I think having my own portfolio, showcasing what I had been creating and the things that I had built myself, and then also I had built with others, whether that be in a classroom setting, in a team setting with women in computing, and being able to showcase that in both an interview, but then also on my LinkedIn, on my resume, that they were able to do that research ahead of time really helped set my application apart.
Awesome, Tori. That's also helpful, really hitting on those soft skills, which we always remind students are so important, and in addition to their tech skills. Kind of delving again into like that Adobe ambassador experience. Can you tell me how you market that experience and describe it? Just because we have so many Adobe ambassadors here that I'm sure would love to learn how you used it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually fortunate enough to be the first ever Adobe ambassador on campus, which really allowed me to kind of form the program on my own to kind of what I wanted it to be. And it's blown up so much, which is so exciting to see. And I'm so excited for all the ambassadors that are currently in the role and that are going to be in the role. It's a really awesome experience. But one of the biggest pieces of being an ambassador is not only being able to advocate for your skills and showcase that, but also showcasing those skills and helping others learn them. So it was kind of a twofold, like a 2-for-1, where not only am I being able to showcase that I know how to use Photoshop, I know how to use Express and other platforms, but also showcasing that I know it so well that I want to help other people learn it, and that's something that I am really passionate about. And that's things that employers look for, is not only what are you passionate about, but how are you impacting others with it. So that was a huge piece with the ambassador program that was really awesome. And just honestly, I think a little bit luck of the draw. It really taught me a little bit about personal branding. And if you go back and look at my LinkedIn, even if you go back and look at my personal social medias, it's covered with Adobe branding, with Adobe workshops, with just different things that I shared with my community. And by doing that, my community just grew vastly. And more and more people saw the things that I was doing and saw how inspired I was. And so that was a really awesome opportunity. And I think that is honestly and truly how I landed on the doorstep of Microsoft. Did stuff directly with Adobe Creative Cloud. I'm on some of their LinkedIn pages. There's several different sessions that I hosted on their websites. So I got some really, really cool experiences, and directly because of that, it gave me some really nice visibility that I'm very thankful for.
So thinking about like personal branding and visibility, it sounds like networking through LinkedIn definitely played a huge role in your journey. Can you share a bit about your strategies or approach to networking?
Yeah. So the biggest thing for me is to be 100% authentic. Even though I haven't even been a full-time employee for a year, I think it's really, really important to know, when people genuinely want to get to know you and get to know the work that you're doing. And same thing on the end that you're at. Are you really genuinely interested in getting to know that person and the work that they're doing? Versus am I just doing this because I think it's going to help me? And so being authentic shines through so much, and it is so, so important. It helps you. It helps your mental health. Don't push yourself too far with the networking, with the branding, if it's not authentic to yourself. But being able to showcase that, like I've already said, like your genuine passions will shine through when you do that. And people can just tell that that is truly what you're about. So there's a part of personal branding where it's going to come a little bit naturally, and there's a part where it's what people see you as because it's what you put out into the world without even realizing you're putting out. But then you also have that chance to craft it on your own. And so that is where I was very intentional about showcasing some of those skills and some of those events and opportunities that I had that I knew would elevate the things that I was trying to achieve. So just being consistent with your networking and with your branding. It can feel awkward at times, and sometimes, you get caught up in how many people are paying attention to this, but that's really not what it's about. Just getting consistent, getting comfortable with sharing that work. It's huge, and branding yourself so that more people understand what you're about and what you want to be known for goes a really, really long way. And it's the same thing with networking. It's the same thing as networking. One of them is just through the lens of technology and is virtual, and the other one, it happens a lot more in person. So they really go hand in hand. But my number one recommendation is to just make sure that it's authentic and that you're showing your true self, because people notice that and people really appreciate that.
That's really, really insightful. Continuing going into the idea of personal branding, can you tell me about what are some of the most important things to keep in mind when creating a portfolio and how you keep your brand consistent across that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, when I made my portfolio, it was it's a little bit scary at first because you're like, where do I begin? What's most important? So I had to really sit back and think about what did I want to showcase, and what work have I done that I want to elevate needs to be a part of this portfolio. So the first thing I did was I made a logo. I decided, okay, this is the color scheme I like, this is the font I like, what really encapsulates me in a brand, in a logo. And so that was some of the first things I did. And then after doing that is when I started to incorporate those passion pieces, that work piece that I did in my classes, in extracurriculars, outside. So the first thing is remember that it can be scary, but it's not. It's once you break it down into little things, it's not so bad. But then when thinking of your portfolio, it's again to go back to that branding. What do you want to showcase? And so what inspires you? Maybe that's a color, maybe that's a symbol, and really run with it. And then that's when you can start to elevate your work and bring your work into it. For me personally, sometimes it's hard. You don't know what from class work you can share and what you don't want to share. And then you're also trying to make sure it's consistent with what type of job you're wanting to land. Is this creative enough that I'm showing it? Is it strategic enough that I'm showing it? but also remember, if you have passions outside that you want to share, go for it. This is a great place to do it. That just elevates your brand even more. So whether that's digital art you're creating, whether that's photography, whether that's community service that you've been working on, it doesn't even have to be like a physical thing, but it can just be things that you have been a part of, that really set you apart. So those are really crucial things when making a portfolio. And there's so many resources online. It doesn't have to be this big thing. And I'll put my Adobe ambassador hat back on, but you can use the Adobe tools that are free to you at IU. Express has a great website template that you can use. There's also Adobe portfolios. You can build a portfolio straight through them. So that's a great resource to get started if you're not sure where to start.
Awesome. Well, that is so great to hear. Love to hear all about that free Adobe. Kind of a fun question, just kind of spinning off of that. Do you have a favorite Adobe products?
Yes, I do. Okay. So I will always love Express because I think it's a great way to get into it, especially if you don't have a ton of experience with the Adobe Creative Cloud. It's pretty much like Canva, so it's a really great way to start learning things. They've also added that generative AI piece, so it's really, really fun to play with. But there's a huge part of me that one of my favorite things to do when creating digital art is photo manipulation. And because of that, I love Photoshop, and that's the first place I go to. There's a lot of times when I'll create things and it would be so much easier for me to do it on Illustrator. And I love and appreciate Illustrator, but I am such a Photoshop person deep down that I will go to Photoshop first.
That is so awesome. Kind of getting back on track with Microsoft and Adobe products and moving a little further past that. Can you walk us through what a typical day as a product marketing manager is like?
Yeah, absolutely. So it varies depending on what your role is, what your team is. My internship, I had a different role than what I have now, and my days looked a little bit different than they do now, and what they will look like when I rotate onto another team. But what I would say is very common for most all product marketing managers is you're going to have a very busy schedule every single day. You're going to be booked out with meetings for a lot of your days. Because of that, you're going to have to be prepared to work longer hours certain weeks so you can actually get your own work done, to learn how to block off your calendar in the morning or the afternoon so you can focus and get things done. But it is very much a people-centric job. I'm working with my team and cross teams day in and day out all the time. And then I am also in the customer evidence role. So I meet with customers every single day pretty much. And so it's a lot of forward facing and a lot of conversation. And let me tell you, when I first started working, I wasn't used to that. I was used to the college schedule of having a little bit more free time in your days, and I was exhausted. But it is very rewarding. A lot of what I do, besides interviewing customers, is I create video assets, I create case study assets, I work on blogs, and infographics, and it's all centered around the Azure AI products. So again, the biggest one is Azure OpenAI Service, but we have Azure AI Search, we have Speech, we have Vision, Document Intelligence. There's a bajillion different products. And so knowing those technical pieces so I can be the subject matter expert when we're creating a video with a customer, when we're creating a story that tells a very, very awesome full use case of how this customer used Azure AI to create their own virtual copilot. And being able to get every single one of those details right and ask those really nitty-gritty questions and interviews and follow-ups and things like that. So that is what my day-to-day looks like. But again, depending on what team you're on, what your role and job function are, it varies. But lots of meetings, lots of collaboration and collateral creation. It definitely keeps me on my toes. Not every single day is the same, which I kind of appreciate, and it makes it a very exciting job.
So kind of playing off of that, we have a question in the chat about what is your most fascinating experience as a product marketing manager?
Yeah, that's honestly, it's a tough question because I have been so fortunate with the team that I'm on, that they really, really trust me in the work that I do, and they've given me some really, really awesome work to do, and they've really elevated the work that I've done. Um, I would say, no matter what, one of the most rewarding things is creating content with customers and getting to meet them and learn what about Azure AI makes them so excited and what we have brought to them that's made them enabled them to create the things that they have. And then telling that story and seeing it come to fruition is always one of the most exciting things. I would say personally, one of the coolest projects I've worked on. We have our two largest conferences in May and in November, and I was a part of the one in November. I have the one coming up in May, but the one in November was called Ignite, and we created a lot of different content to be showcased at this amazing giant business use case conference. But one of the videos that I created specifically for one of our Fortune 100 companies made it into the CEO's keynote, which was really exciting. I also had only been working for 2.5, 3 months at that point. So not only was it almost unbelievable for someone at that point, for a 23-year-old to see her work there, but it gave me a lot of confidence and a lot of trust in my team that they felt that way about my work and that they could trust me to do something like that. So, huge props to my team. Truly, I just got blessed with having a fantastic team. But because of that, I've had some really, really awesome experiences, and that is definitely one I will not forget.
That is so, so awesome. I'm just mind blown. That's a great experience to have just starting a job. I guess kind of going along that. So after graduation, you moved from Blooming, Indiana to a whole new state, way across the country. Can you tell us about how you navigated that transition, not only as a professional, but in terms of like your social life and just adulting, like on the other side of the country?
Yeah, it was, I will say, I interned in person in 2022. So I luckily was coming back and knew the area a little bit, knew some people, so that definitely helped. Um, but it was exciting and scary. Like, I think that's pretty normal. I don't have any family on the West Coast. Most of my family is in Indiana or more on the East Coast. So I was moving pretty far away, and I'm very close with my family. So that was definitely something that was difficult. Professionally, like I mentioned earlier, I was used to for 4 years not necessarily having Friday classes, having a big break in my schedule in the middle of the day, and being able to kind of run around on my own schedule, being able to do homework in the middle of the day, being able to take a nap or go for a run, whatever I really wanted to do, I could do. And so when I got to Microsoft and had a 9 to 5 and then occasionally had to work outside of my 9 to 5, I was exhausted. It took quite a minute for me to adjust, and that's so extremely normal. I've got it down now, but it is normal to be tired and to have to adjust to that slowly. I also in some ways was just like as you're trying to figure it out, I was relearning what I truly wanted to spend my time on outside of work. Was that creating art and passion pieces? Was that going to see friends? Was that going to the gym? It really would depend, and I had to kind of like figure out how to balance that as well. Which kind of brings it to the social aspect. Um, it was one of my first experiences making friends outside of like an organized environment in school. And that also takes a little bit of getting used to. But the one thing you have to remind yourself is when you're meeting people, they're pretty much in the same boat as you. You know, a lot of people, especially here in Seattle, they moved here for work. They're usually pretty young too, just having graduated college, or still in their early to mid 20s and relocated for work. And so everyone is in the same boat, looking to make friends. People are pretty nice here. There's the idea that there's the Seattle freeze, but I think that's truly up to yourself and how willing you are to go make friends. But the biggest thing is I recommend just putting yourself out there, whether that's joining an employee resource group at your job and getting to know people through that, whether that's messaging. I've had some friends that went to IU that we just messaged with each other on social media and agreed to meet up. And then by doing small things like that and joining things you're interested in and reaching out to people you might know, you slowly meet more people and you find people that have those same interests as you. Um, so it takes a second. You have to just give it time and give it grace and give yourself grace, because it can be frustrating, it can be tiring at points. But it's very worth it and rewarding. And I'm 7 months into living in Washington now, and I'm so glad I made this decision for myself. And once you do make those decisions, you just can't look back.
Yeah, thank you, Tori. That's so helpful. Learning how to make friends as an adult is something I'm still curious about. So I really appreciate that insight. I guess kind of spinning off that, can you tell me about what you do for self-care after your long, sometimes beyond 9 to 5 hour days? Like, what is your favorite self-care activity?
Yeah, so I've been going back and forth a little bit. I've definitely picked out the things that matter most to me. So for me, I stare at a computer every single day. As much as I love to create digital art, I've learned that I have to balance that and that I'm not going to want to do that every single day of my life, especially when I've already been staring at a computer screen for 8 hours. So picking up a book, getting outdoors and going for a walk, going for a run, calling my family is huge to me just to stay in contact with them, but also in some ways disconnect with the world that's right there in front of me. I am very much a creative and love to do artsy things. So I will often find myself sitting down in my living room and painting or doing something creative that helps me just let my mind wander and not think about work, and just like relieve stress without even really thinking about it. So art has been huge for me. I personally am a big schedule person, so I really like to follow my own schedule. So usually at the beginning of a week, the weekend before, I'll kind of figure out what I have going on for that week and then schedule in, okay, these are going to be my busier days. I'm probably gonna wanna just read a book and go to bed. I won't want to do much of anything else. Oh, this day I'll have a little bit more free time. I think I'm gonna go to the gym. I've been feeling really creative right now. I'm gonna set aside some time this weekend so I can pursue that. So for me, having a little bit of a schedule was actually really helpful. But like I said, it takes some time to figure out what works for you and in what capacity you can do that. But for me, deconnecting and like fully closing my laptop, not answering any notifications, and letting myself be immersed in whatever I am doing, whether that's being physically active or creating or reading, has been really, really helpful.
That's awesome, Tori. I think those are all really, really great methods. For the students listening, we do have a mental health presentation tomorrow that's going on about how to take care of yourself during the job search. So Tori mentioned some great examples and we'll talk about more tomorrow. Um, and then I kind of want to pull in this question from the chat. So someone was asking, when do applications usually open for internships and what steps or advice do you have for applying? Do you want to talk about your experience with like Microsoft in particular, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely. So Microsoft applications for internships usually come out in early fall prior to that summer. So, for example, internships for summer 2024 applications came out in early fall 2023. So if you're looking for an internship for 2025, wow, that's a lot to think about. Applications will come out like probably August timeframe, right around the time you're starting school again, in 2024. The process is, it can be a lot. Just because it's a giant corporation, a big machine. Um, but really, like, I recommend reaching out to, I don't necessarily recommend reaching out to recruiters. They're super busy. They're really busy during recruitment time, that they're likely getting a million messages. They're not going to see yours. But I do recommend connecting with people on LinkedIn, reaching out to them, just asking if you can put some time on their calendar for advice, to hear about their experiences. Not only does that help you figure out if this is something you're actually truly going to be interested in and want to do, but it also gives you some real face time with someone that's in that role. And you never know what could come from that. I have several people that I have connected with, and I've happily given them a referral for Microsoft. So doing small things like that can really, really put you a long, long way. But don't be discouraged by the process. I've had people tell me, you know, don't overload yourself. And so if that means one application a day, great. If that means one application a week, great. Do whatever works for you. And apply to many things. Be open, knowing that this is an internship and you don't have to do that specifically for the rest of your life. But just be open, apply to things, and reach out to people so you can hear about their experiences as well. And if you think it would be helpful, Sarah, I'm happy to talk about what my internship experience was like.
Yeah, I think while we're on applications for a minute, I kind of want to stay in that realm and then we can get
Yep.
into your internship experience. Kind of going off of your networking tips and talking about reaching out to people on LinkedIn, do you ever get informational interview requests from IU students, or is that something you would be interested in? And if
Yeah,
so, what's the best message for them to send as like their initial like slide into the DMs kind of message there?
yeah, actually, this is a great question because I will be completely honest. I get a lot of people that might be IU students reach out to me that I've never met. And a lot of people sometimes will be like, hey, we went to the same school. Will you give me a referral? And that's really, really hard because we can only refer so many people for so many things. And I would love to refer you, but I would love to get to know you and help you navigate your Microsoft journey. So yeah, absolutely. I would love to set up an informational session so I can learn more about you and you can learn more about what I do, and we can help figure out what is going to be like the best road for you. And then I'm happy to talk about referrals. But it definitely can be daunting, sliding into someone's DMs. I always remember to emphasize my excitement to meet them, and remember to give them some grace because working people are busy, and so they may not be checking their LinkedIn all the time. They may want to reply to you, but something came up and they just aren't going to be able to get to it right away. So being super excited and coming in with it that you just wanted to connect with them, you wanted to learn from them, and that you've been maybe following what they've been doing on LinkedIn, and you think they have a really, really unique experience and you would love to learn more about it. It never hurts to bolster someone's ego a little bit in this case. But just being, again, genuine and authentic and letting them know that you just want to get to know them more and more about what they're doing goes a really long way. And in some cases, less is more, where you let them know that you appreciate the connection, and if they have any availability to connect with you further via a call or whatever, that's all you really have to say. And sometimes people are going to say no, and that's okay. On to the next one. There's plenty of people that would be willing to meet with you and help.
And I guess kind of going along that, obviously sliding into the DMs and starting off with, can I get a referral is not going to prompt the best result. How many interactions or like what quality of interactions like do you think is appropriate to have before you ask about a referral?
Yeah, I think it varies depending on how much communication you've had maybe before setting up a meeting. For example, if you've been messaging back and forth on LinkedIn for quite a while before setting up a meeting, I think maybe it's a little bit more normal to ask about a referral. I also personally kind of dance around that without like saying it without saying it. So they get the hint, but you're not being upfront and being like, okay, so I want a referral out of this now that I've spent 30 minutes with you. If you really enjoyed the conversation with a person, I think it's great to keep that relationship up. You never know where it could lead, whether that's mentorship, whether that's just a new corporate friend, someone who will advocate for you down the road. So I definitely recommend if you've had a good conversation, but you don't yet feel comfortable after one conversation asking about that, I just recommend at the end being like, this has been so insightful. Thank you so much. Would you mind if I put some time on your calendar in a couple weeks so we can talk a little bit more? I'm so inspired by you. I have so many questions about XYZ and I'd love to learn more. Most people, if you already had the first call, they're going to be more than open to talk to you another time.
That is really, really helpful. Another question that we got in the chat, I think rolls back to, sorry, I'm trying to read it and phrase it. Rolls back to like self-care. How do you manage social media distractions when you're trying to be present with yourself, in that free time and self-care period?
Yeah, it can be really difficult. I think honestly, one of the greatest features that I've leaned into now that I'm working is the do not disturb feature on my phone. It allows me to set a work feature, so when I'm at work, I only get certain notifications, a personal one, so when I'm at home, I'm not getting on apps too much out of my day. I'm not letting like the small things constantly grab my attention because I definitely am one of those people that gets a notification and I'm like a dog and I'm like, where? Um, but then also um it's totally up to you, but setting like screen time limits, just being aware of that. I get my screen time every Sunday and I kind of make it a personal goal to do a little bit better, drop a percentage or two every single week. But for me, the biggest thing that's going to pull you off of your phone is finding those things outside of social media that inspire you and that keep you excited. So for me, that's going to the gym, that's creating that art, spending time with friends and being present in the moment, calling my family and talking to them, just little things that take me off of social media. And it's different for every person, right? So whatever you find works for you, if that is setting up those limits on your phone, I definitely recommend doing that. But then also remember that social media is meant to be a tool and it sometimes isn't. It sometimes drains you. It sometimes takes things out of you, and you're only getting a fraction of everyone's lives on social media. So keeping that in mind and just reminding yourself that it's not the end all be all and that you also have a life outside of social media. Sometimes just taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture and then putting your phone down is really the best thing you can do.
I absolutely love that advice, and I love what you said about social media being a tool and not letting it become something not helpful. That's really an amazing perspective. We got another question that's more kind of delving into your experience at Microsoft. How would you describe the company culture at Microsoft, and how is it different in comparison to other tech companies? And you can speak to that to whatever degree you feel comfortable.
Thank you. Yeah, so I have had great experiences at Microsoft. I am in a rotational program, so I'm with about 30 other young men and women that are my age, and that is really nice because you kind of get built-in people to talk to and to have similar experiences that you can share. Um, and it naturally creates a little bit of that company culture within like a small subset of the actual company. And you know, everyone being the same age has very similar experiences and interests. So you all get to like kind of banter off of each other, which is definitely really nice. Additionally, I'm super lucky that I'm just on a really passionate, driven team that's really excited, and they're often in office. That's really nice. That helps you feel a little bit more excited about the work that you're doing, a little bit more driven about the things that you're doing. It also just brings that human piece into it more. You're not just going into the office or staying home every single day just to make ends meet and get work done. You get that communication and collaboration piece. So I think the culture is super, super great. And the culture at Microsoft has definitely been climbing, as in they've gotten positive growing reviews every single year. So it is doing a very good job. So I can say across the board, I think that's pretty common. Same thing with my internship experience. I had very positive people. I still have mentors that I talk to from my internship experience. People are really, really good about helping people, especially early in their careers and wanting to see you thrive. So I think that speaks volumes about the culture and the people that work here at Microsoft. Comparing it to other tech companies is difficult because I don't want to say anything about anyone else. I will say that in comparison to some of the other tech companies nearby, we have a much higher rate of people staying at the company. And so I think that speaks a lot about the culture and the team management, and the overall happiness of employees. There's also very good opportunity for growth here. It doesn't always seem like it because it's such a big machine, but if you're on a team that wants to see you grow and gives you opportunities to get promoted, to try new things, to do that work, then it's really rewarding and you can feel that in the culture. Um, there are other tech companies like Google that have similar programs. And I from what I know, I think that's also a really great place to be. I mean, I think big tech is awesome, and getting an experience, no matter what that culture is never a bad thing. I do think Microsoft has a culture that is set apart from others. I think based off the experience that I've had, it's been really, really positive. And even on those days that the work isn't the most exciting, you have really great people around you, and it's very clear that, a bad day isn't going to be like an everyday thing, and that's natural in any job. So being able to fall back on, I have a great manager, I have a great team, the people around me are awesome, is just huge.
Having so many issues with that mute on mute button here. No, that was super great, very insightful. I think another question that I personally have is AI is really trendy right now. I know you see it a lot, obviously, in your role working directly with OpenAI and ChatGPT. How do you use AI every day in your role? Is it something you're expected to learn quickly? Like, yeah, how do you use AI?
Yeah, so I think that's one thing, in general, being a marketer, but also being an employee at Microsoft, being an employee that works on AI. You shouldn't be working on the product, and you shouldn't be marketing the product if you can't use it yourself and you aren't advocating to use it yourself. So I will say, when I first got in the role, I even told my team, this is so exciting, this is awesome, I love AI, but you're gonna have to bear with me for a second, because in school you have to learn the difference of like using AI as a tool to help you grow versus taking the easy way out and using AI to do things. And so a lot of when you're in school, you have to figure out what that looks like, and sometimes people want to take the easy way out. And so I just told them I don't have a lot of experience with it because it was almost easier to just shy away from it in general. But it is one of the most helpful tools. It's so great when I have, for example, when I have a creative idea for something on a blog, but I can't fully get past a couple things, I'll just throw it into Copilot, and Copilot's like, oh, I love this. Let me take it and run. I'll give you 4 different ideas on what you can do with this blog. When I'm trying to craft up an email and I need it to be very succinct. Oh my gosh, I cannot speak. Succinct, and get my points across, but I also want it to be super professional, I can just throw a little draft in there, throw my points in there, it'll write it all for me. Same thing with PowerPoint. If I want to create a PowerPoint, but I need that done and on my boss's desk by 8 a.m. and it's 4 p.m., I can throw those points into Copilot. They'll create the PowerPoint for me. Same thing with, going through email threads. I have tons of emails that I need to read from customers, and I just want to be able to get certain points. I can ask Copilot, hey, what are the key takeaways from this? Same thing on meetings. So it's a really, really useful tool to eliminate some of those pieces where I would waste minutes trying to figure out how to do it on my own, or trying to just search through things myself, where I can just say, hey, Copilot, can you tell me XYZ? And they'll go pull it for me. And it's so helpful. I absolutely recommend using that and getting comfortable with doing that now.
That is a lot of helpful insight. I've been playing with Copilot myself, so it's so exciting to hear the ways that you use it. It's given me some new ideas, so thank you for that. Uh, Students, we have about 10 minutes left, so please throw any questions you have in the chat. I'm going to give Tori another question while we're waiting to see if anyone else has questions, but this is kind of like your last call. So in our own conversation, Tori, you and I had mentioned it was very challenging to job search when you graduated in 2023. Many of our current students are facing similar struggles. Can you discuss some strategies students can utilize to stand out in such an oversaturated job market?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to go back to the personal branding a little bit just because that helped me so much. But staying active on your LinkedIn is awesome. Showcasing the work that you've done. It really is impactful, and you never know who could see it. Like for instance, I see so many things that Luddy students share, and it's really exciting to see. Often I'll love it, I'll celebrate it. And just in me doing that, not only am I seeing it, and I'm seeing it as an alum and someone who works at Microsoft, but because I loved it, somebody that I'm connected to at Microsoft, at Amazon, anywhere else is also seeing that I reacted to these things. So you really do have such a broad reach on your social media, especially on your LinkedIn, and I really advocate using that. But it's a great platform to showcase, hey, I made this in class and I really want people to see it. I'm really proud of it. We did this super cool event with my organization. I really want to elevate it so people see it. I want to celebrate things that other people are doing. Women's History Month is really, really important to me. So I want to do something to commemorate that. All of it ties into that branding and that networking. So I definitely advocate doing that. It helps you stand out in a job market 100%, and it helps you meet some people that, like I said before, are going to be willing to advocate for you, that are going to give you an opportunity that you didn't even know was possible. Um, and so that is super, super crucial. Also just in I remember last year, even though I had a full-time job, getting just like really discouraged by the job market. And so kind of reminding yourself, um, it is going to work out for me. I have a great resume, I have great experiences, I'm good at what I do. And sometimes that's really hard to remind yourself, but just taking that time for yourself to recenter and remember those things. And like I said earlier, if that means you want to go crazy and apply to 20 a day, go ahead and do that. It may not be sustainable in the long term. But if that means setting a rule for yourself, I'm going to have 5 done a week, then apply to 5 a week. And remember that, you might have to apply to 1,000 to get to that one, but it's going to be such a rewarding, perfect one. And that's so normal, and every single other person is doing the same thing.
I guess kind of going along with that, we constantly get the question at Career Services of quality versus quantity. Like, do you want your materials to be really good, meticulously written, cover letter, like customized, or do you want to get out as many applications as possible? In your experience, what was more successful for you in your job search?
Um, well, my mom's a recruiter, so she always told me get those important details on your resume and highlight them, put them in bolder fonts, make them bigger fonts, make sure those stand out because I'll give it about 6 seconds before I move on to the next thing. So that's, I think, definitely something to consider when you're putting your resume, when you're putting your portfolio, when you're putting a cover letter in, that you highlight those important pieces off the bat and you make that present to them because when they are going through hundreds and thousands of applications, they just don't have the time to look at everything. But I have always been a believer of quality over quantity, showing that you put time and effort into things and that you genuinely are interested in the role, that you've genuinely worked hard in the things that you've done and you're passionate about them and you want to showcase them from my experience. And I think in all cases will get you a much further way than just cranking out something that looks like everybody else's application that you did in 5 minutes because you just wanted to apply. I mean, if you have been applying and you're getting discouraged or you're feeling tired, don't do that next application. Take a break, take some time to yourself, come back to it when you're ready so you can give more quality attention to it because it is, to me, and I think most people, way more important that you have a quality application over just pumping out as many as you can.
All right, well, Tori, thank you so much. That was really helpful. We're getting to the end of our time here. Are there any last thoughts you want to leave, words of wisdom, etc., for our students that are tuning in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first, thank you so much for having me. But honestly and truly, if you told me, 4 years ago that I would be sitting here at Microsoft talking to you all about my experience, I would have probably laughed and been like, that's so awesome, but no way. I'll believe it when I see it. So truly believing in yourself is going to get you further than anything else could. And no one else is going to advocate for you like you will for yourself. So really remind yourself that you've got this, that you've done really incredible things to get yourself where you're at now, and probably a lot of things that when you were younger you wouldn't have been able to believe. And so just remember that it's going to be like that years down the road as well, and that you can do it, and you have no idea what the future holds, but that it's going to be amazing. So just remember that, advocate for yourself, and continue to pursue the things that keep you inspired and that you're passionate and excited about, and everything will work out exactly how it should.
That is amazing advice, Tori. We are so grateful, so amazed to have you here and just hearing all of your great stories, all of your great advice. Tori might be back to join us in the fall for something special. So we're super excited to possibly have her back in the fall to talk more about it. But thank you so much, Tori. Thank you so much, students. Thank you so much, development, for being here. This was truly amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yes, you all too. Have a good evening, and thank you for having me, and I hope to be back soon.